yet another cartoon that I get back to despite the fact that I barely talked about it or even mentioning it despite being part of my new intro and even my old intro. So, I honestly think that doing a review of these cartoons that I haven't talked about in so many times really goes to show that I want to do something special for Summer Palooza 2, just like I did with the first Palooza last year. So here's my review of Adventure Time Memory of a Memory. Finn and Jake immediately head to Marceline's home when her spiritual animal, which is this wizard on screen, says that she's in deep trouble. When they see Marceline unconscious on the floor, her spiritual animal said that she completely cast a sleep spell on her, and if they don't get the memory core out of her, one of her memory cores, she will remain asleep forever. So it's up to Finn and Jake to go inside one of her dreams and memories. If you're all familiar with the episodes I made involving Adventure Time, which I highly doubt you don't because most of them are old and I barely talked about this show, this actually leads to so many flashbacks involving Marceline's past. And this is actually the first time we actually get to see that in full view of it. We get to see Marceline as a child completely enjoying her teddy bear, seeing what she spent most of her time in one of the homes that she actually used before Finn and Jake actually used her treehouse, and also the moment we actually get to see Marceline's father eat her french fries. But that isn't the main focus of this episode because, well, they should save these ideas for later times because this episode is mainly about Marceline's old boyfriend, Ash. Now, Ash is one of those characters who are completely oblivious of what he does and the fact that Marceline actually knows everything more than Ash. You see, what caused the breakup is that Ash sold Marceline's teddy bear to a witch so that he can give her this gift, which actually does amazing stuff, which isn't actually a great way for your girlfriend to be approved. Besides, when the ghost said, "You're not a genius," really sums up everything on what Ash is in this episode and the show in general. After Marceline dumps Ash, Finn and Jake return back to the mission on trying to find the memory core to wake up Marceline. That red thing inside of Finn is where they actually get close to the memory core. They get the memory core, give it to the wizard, and he actually casts a spell to wake up Marceline. But as it turns out, he only did this just so that he can eliminate the memory involving his breakup with Marceline. Sorry, mixed that up. So that he can actually remain Marceline's boyfriend again. Which actually leads to the end of the episode of Finn and Jake just trying to do the right thing by revealing the real truth onto why all this is ending up happening between Marceline and Ash. The reason why I picked this episode to be my next review involving Adventure Time is because this was the first time I watched Adventure Time when it was premiering new episodes weekly on Cartoon Network. And I actually found the imagination in this episode really good, especially when you get to see bits and pieces of Marceline's backstory. I know I say that in the newer seasons I didn't enjoy the show as much as other people do, but I will say that this episode being the first time I've watched it to watch new episodes from the show weekly on Cartoon Network, I have to say, I honestly think that this is probably a great way for me to actually get into Adventure Time more since I've gotten into it in the month of July. I became a fan of Adventure Time and getting used to the show in July of 2011, which was around the time the third season has been premiering. During that time, I've been watching seasons 1 and 2, and I've enjoyed those, so I was looking forward to watching some season 3 episodes when they premiere on Cartoon Network. Anyway, this episode, I honestly think that it's mostly enjoyable. It's one of the ones that I can actually see the most in season 3. Back then, I called season 3 the least favorite of the show, but I don't want to go into further detail on that. I've already talked about that before, and people didn't like that, so I shouldn't talk about it right now. But anyway, this episode really made me enjoy this show as a whole when I've been watching it weekly. When we actually get to see the memories of Marceline, and the fact that her boyfriend Ash is mostly a jerk and just doesn't make up his mind most of the time. Here's one of those examples. Now, I've already mentioned that Ash completely sold something that was really important in Marceline's life, but when I actually think about it, Marceline is 1,000 years old. And I honestly think that if anyone actually went through that many years of experienced life in so many different ways, really goes to show that the Land of Ooo is obviously one of those weird and bizarre places that have so much world building to actually put a lot more development on other characters. I honestly understand onto why there's so many character developments from other characters in later seasons so that we can actually see more and more of them, and why we get to see new characters pop up out of nowhere, despite the fact that I have mixed feelings on. I honestly think that this episode really does a good job of what they can do with Marceline in this episode, and the fact that Ash obviously doesn't make up his mind whether he wants to actually do the right thing, despite the fact that he doesn't usually think ahead, and the fact that he only wants Marceline to do what he wants her to do. And when I say that, you can tell that he's only using her for his advantage. Like, he's mostly a slop that doesn't do a lot, and he only does the most dirtiest ways in order to actually get Marceline back, despite the fact that what he did by completely taking away Marceline's teddy bear, something that actually means to her so much, really goes to show that he is a psycho, but not Psycho Dad from the Juggernuggets and the Ridgway family, Ramina's mom. There's really not much to talk about Finn and Jake's motivations in this, because the motivation is just to get the memory core just so that Marceline can wake up, despite the fact there was a huge misunderstanding. Not really misunderstanding, but they just got tricked. So I honestly think that what they're doing is just trying to do something for the wizard and Marceline, but then afterwards they want to do something for Marceline. This is something that actually bothers me in some of these episodes, is that characters like Finn and Jake don't usually do much when the other characters get major spotlights. When I talk about cartoons involving the other characters getting some kind of a spotlight, like Blue in the Super Dude episode I reviewed in this month, I've mentioned that other characters just doesn't usually do a lot when it comes to other characters being the main focus, but when they actually get a minor role, they just try to do something in order to continue the plot. That's just basically what Finn and Jake does, and it actually kind of mostly bothers me. It's not an issue I have with it. I mean, it's not an issue for people that can actually see it, but for me, it just really does, and that actually made me convinced onto why I didn't enjoy the show much when it comes to the newer seasons. I know some people don't usually see this, but if I actually started my YouTube channel long ahead during the time of this episode's air, it would probably be a lot more different story, but I was 13 years old back then, I was still in middle school, and I probably don't have enough knowledge, and if I actually did make those reviews, I would probably get a lot more poor responses, and I'll probably be the laughingstock of people around me in my school. But at least that didn't happen when I made my YouTube channel in 2016, despite the fact that I wanted to do it a lot earlier than expected. But I guess time is sometimes important in stuff like this. So what do I have to say about this episode that hasn't been said in this review? When Marceline completely sees the reasons onto why Ash is just using him, Finn, and Jake just completely beats him up. And that's how the episode ends. I wouldn't consider this a cheap way to end off this episode, but it's actually kind of hilarious just to see Jake completely stepping on Ash, and we don't usually see him again after this episode. I mean, sure, he does come back if people may talk about it in the comments, but from my knowledge, this is the only time I've seen Ash in this. And I will say that the way it's ended off is pretty much humorous for what the show's humor is like. This episode was really something that I actually enjoyed, involving Adventure Time for the unique ideals, mainly Marceline's past, the relationship that she had with Ash before completely meeting Finn and Jake, and the fact that what she's been doing throughout this entire time and the struggle that she went through. But that's for episodes for later seasons that I might talk about in the future, but for right now, I'm only reviewing this episode. Memory of a Memory was the first episode I've watched by watching Adventure Time weekly on Cartoon Network when it comes to new episodes. I gotta say, I'm really thankful that I actually watched this episode, because this episode was just basically something that can actually works for me to actually see something that this show can impress me. But after I've seen, I completely given up on watching this show in 2013, and when I got back to it in 2015, I was really into it again, but then it just hasn't been the same. But that's a story that I refuse to talk about exposurely, because it got me to so many downfalls, and I don't want to have those downfalls again. So I give this episode an 8 out of 10. P.S. The baby bit and song in this episode was humorous and cute at the same time. Really miss the humor of the older episodes and newer episodes. And here I go, talk about the older and newer episodes like I mentioned in my other reviews. Guarantee that I'm going to keep saying that in future videos no matter what.